Hey everyone, I hope you're well. I wanted to give you some more advanced tips on how you can win fights and use movement in combat. Instead of just giving some basic instructions, I'll show you some of my gameplay and I'll explain what's happening in my head and what movements I make, and why you should try to use the same movements too. By the end of this video, not only should you learn some new things on how to use movement better, but you'll understand why these movements are good and how you can implement them into your gameplay. You'll also learn more about the kinds of strategies and general thinking you need to have about combat in Apex Legends. Let's jump straight in. To begin with, in this clip, we push a player that's respawning. My first thought is to get there as quickly as possible, so sliding with your weapon holstered. The next thing is to try and get grenades to land right where they land. This can be so beneficial and an easy way to pick up kills. Next, it's time to use sliding to close the distance to get to the other players of the team. We use cover here as a safe way to move closer. Take note, I slide when reloading here so that we're still able to engage as quickly as possible. It's important to finish fights quickly to stop third parties in Apex Legends. Next, we use a slide peek. This is an excellent movement tip. With this, we slide past where the enemy has their crosshair whilst they are staying very still. We get easy shots on them and they struggle to hit us. Both sliding and sliding whilst jumping can work very well. When I play Apex, I'm always thinking about health advantages. This Pathfinder has level 3 armor, so I want to push him quickly. If he heals back up, I lose the advantage I previously had. On top of this, upgrading to level 3 will help me to fight any other teams that may come, because it happens very often when fighting respawn players. I want you to pay very close attention to this engagement. Unfortunately, the Pathfinder heals here, and this puts me in a bit of a difficult situation, because he has a shotgun. So the first thing in this instance is to create distance between you and the enemy. Look how I back off once I realize he has a shotgun. I then notice that he backs off a little whilst trying to reload, so I push him, but pay very close attention. As soon as he turns towards me, I back off again. Movement in Apex Legends is so smooth that in this instance I could even stop my momentum in mid-air by pressing S to keep that distance between us. As soon as I saw him turning towards me with a reloaded mag, I did this so that I didn't run straight into his face. We need to keep that distance. A shotgun up close can turn a fight around for a low health player. So what did we learn? From this clip, you can use sliding and holstered sliding to engage on players very quickly. If you attack a team, you need to finish a fight as quickly as possible so that you don't get third partied. This is especially true when you go against people that are respawning or placing down airdrops. We use a few different movement tips here. Number 1, we slide whilst holstered to get there quickly. Number 2, we slide peek to get a better shot against that Pathfinder and make sure we don't take any damage. Number 3, we push that Pathfinder as quickly as possible because he's low. We don't want him getting that health advantage again. Number 4, in an engagement against a shotgun, we have to keep our distance so that we're out of the shotgun's effective range. Number 5, we can even stop our momentum in mid-air so that we don't get too close to shotguns. This can be very useful in so many situations. This next fight happens very quickly after the first one, but luckily we finished off that team so they can't third party us. Notice here, I'm hiding because I'm expecting Pathfinder to push me. I want him to come into my line of sight first so I have the better shot. Sometimes hiding works. Once again, we slide whilst reloading here. This just makes us a little harder to track than just strafing backwards and forwards. And straight after that, we're taking shots from another player in the team. Immediately, we need to find a spot to heal. There's a nice little hiding spot here. It's okay to do this because our team is engaged right now. They have our backs, nobody's really going to push us. Once again, we're using terrain here to get closer to the enemies. This is a distance where engagements just aren't really going to happen. We need to get closer. So we have this bone here, we can slide past it, we can slide past the rock, we can go down the hill and come around the other side and flank them. In Apex, you have to be creative about how to engage. There's so much cover around you, so use it. Then one final note about this tiny engagement here. Once again, if a player is disengaging, they're using a movement ability, the best thing you can do to get closer is to slide. That puts your movement speed as close as possible to theirs. In this instance, I push very hard because the octane is low. Unfortunately, I run out of ammo, so I just go hide behind the cover. My teammates got my back here, so perfect. Up next, we have two different tips to talk about. One is crosshair placement, and two is one that I think players really need to use more. It's all about using height on buildings and objects to get an advantage in a fight you would otherwise lose. So a quick note first, in this clip I hear a player near me. I assume they're coming up the stairs to loot the supply bin next to me, so what I do is I get out my weapon and I go around the corner making sure my crosshair is stuck to the corner. This way, if they come into my line of sight, I don't really have to worry about my aim too much. Crosshair placement in a battle royale can be quite difficult. It can be hard to know where to keep your crosshair, but generally as you learn the map more and understand where people go to loot and where people may hide, you can usually keep your crosshair pinned to those areas in expectation of them to be there. Okay, so in this fight we take down the Bloodhound. The lifeline gets away on a little bit of health, but that's fine as long as we're alive. What happens next is the third player of this team pushes us. They have a Havoc and we have a P2020, so we really need to think carefully about this engagement. There's a very good piece of cover here that allows us to see all around this artillery weapon. So this allows us to get a good shot down at them instead of just going around in circles trying to peek and strafe and just losing the fight. Using height like this to get an advantage and look down at enemies usually catches most players off guard, and it's a creative way to win fights. So try and use it the next time you play. This whole thing doesn't just apply to this particular area. Use it on buildings, use it on cars, use it on boxes. Absolutely any height advantage can work surprisingly well. Up next we have a clip that kind of has some interesting elements in it, so we'll go step by step and explain them as we go. Not only do we talk about movement here, but we also talk about general game strategy that applies to some things in Apex Legends. One of the most amazing things about this game is that you can take a lot of little bits of information and use it to play in creative ways. So the first thing I notice about this engagement, there's one player that's pushed up close to us whilst the other two are quite far away. So we use Wraith's tactical to get close to that one player. She is isolated and we have the Mastiff, so if we can get her down, the fight will immediately go in our favour. The next thing I notice about this fight is that there's level 3 body armor in the centre of the pit. Now this is one of these spawns that it can be a very high chance to be armor, so I'm pretty sure this is untouched. Nobody has picked this up yet. What does this mean? It means we can be very aggressive, and if things get bad, we can just camp this armor spot. So I push hard. I want to end this fight quickly because there is still another team left, and being in the pit right now is a very bad place to be third partied. At this point we know that the last team is coming through that alley, which is very good because we have the Mastiff, which means if we want to win this fight, we need to put the Mastiff in its best position. We need to be in that alley. We can't let the enemies come out and spread out, because that will mean we lose our advantage with this very powerful weapon. And in the middle of that fight, there was one cardboard box that we could hide behind and kind of strafe and slide peek out of to get that kill. Luckily there was just one player left, so it went very well. Here's an example of how you can be aggressive, a very small example. So this player shoots, they reload, they go behind cover to reload. That's a good play, but we can counter it by using that time to get closer as quickly as possible. A quick slide allows us to cover that distance very quickly, and then we follow up by chasing them as they go through their tactical. This is a very good time to engage on a Wraith. When they leave their tactical, they're usually very vulnerable because they're going to be disorientated. They won't be sure where enemies will be. Okay, so that wraps up the video. So what did we learn? Here's a general list. 1. We need to finish fights quickly in Apex to stop third partying. So use sliding to engage enemies quick to stop them from escaping or healing. If a player is low and they have better armor, it's usually wise to thirst them to stop them regaining that health advantage. 2. Use cover creatively to get closer to enemies. Cover is everywhere in Apex. Use it. 3. Keep your distance based on the weapons a player has. If they have a shotgun, for example, keep your engagements further by moving back if they push you and moving forward if they start to run. 4. Try to incorporate climbing and height to your advantage in fights. 5. When you are low, think about the current situation. Are enemies close? In that case, it may be best to run. Are your teammates engaged in a 3v3? Then maybe you should back them up. Is the fight in your favour already in terms of numbers? Then sure, you should have time to heal. 6. Try to take as much information from your surroundings as possible. Is there armor on the floor? Are there enemies that are separated from their team? Are there any enemies in areas that your current loadout could provide an advantage over? Small details like this can help you to win more fights. You'll start to pick up on this over time, but generally you'll be able to take any information and adjust your flight plan quickly on the fly. This is how you become better in fights in Apex Legends. Thanks everybody that has watched this far. If you have any thoughts, leave a comment. I'll see you there. I'm also streaming on Twitch from Monday to Saturday, so check the link for that in the description. Cheerio!